Mark, how you doing, man?
Good. Great to be here. Happy to be in New York. Permissionless has been pretty fun so far.
Yeah, Permissionless is great. I've spoken with so many amazing founders and companies and projects, and it's cool to see how far along the Web3 landscape has come over the years. I've been around for a while. I don't know how long you've been around, but when did you first get in the space?
So I was hovering around the space kind of in a hobby kind of just interest form since about 2016, 2015. But only really went kind of all in with Aethir in around 2020, 2021.
I want to talk about Aethir today and dive into it a little bit more. I've done a little bit of research. I think it's really interesting what you guys are doing with the GPUs and stuff. And I think, with where that could plug into things like AI and other spaces in Web3, I think this will be an interesting conversation. To kick it off, we'd love to know a little bit more about yourself. If you don't mind sharing your story, like how you got into the space in particular. Everyone's got an interesting story. It's a non-traditional industry. So what's your journey been like?
Yeah, man. It's been fun. I don't think I would have predicted being where I am today, 10 years ago. But I started my career in infrastructure building, in oil and gas, building big kind of infrastructure projects in very remote places. I started working with a big American company building these big kind of offshore and onshore facilities in the middle of the desert. I would fly in, stay there for 6 weeks, and then have 2 weeks off. And I did that for about 6 years. It was a pretty incredible experience. As a kind of young engineer, those environments were just filled with opportunity and the scale of operation that you couldn't really see in a city, right? Like obviously there's not enough space. Like you're building in a totally greenfields environment in the middle of nowhere. Like there's just so much stuff going on, so many big pieces of equipment, so many big scopes of work. It was just a really fun place that I felt leveled people up really quickly because you just were doing crazy stuff from day one. I loved that. I rotated through kind of a whole number of different roles within that kind of organization over 6 years, like quite frequently. Every 6 to 9 months, I'd be changing position. And that gave me a lot of confidence that I didn't necessarily need to be an expert in something to succeed, right? And it kind of built this belief in myself that I could, maybe go out and start a startup. And I was really interested in the startup ecosystem. So long story short, I kind of came up with an idea, pushed it forward, gained a bit of confidence in it, and then said, "Screw it, I'm gonna quit my job." And I actually moved to China, right? So my company, it was a biotech company that I founded, had a manufacturing element to it. So I figured being in China, being closer to factories, reduced iteration cycle, living in China also had a great impact on my runway as compared to like say moving to New York or the Bay Area. So I did that and ended up raising some money as a first-time founder, which was, a bit of a surprise even to myself. Worked on that project for a couple of years, ended up exiting and leaving it behind and kind of thinking about what I wanted to do next. That kind of biotech role was a little bit of a deviation from, I guess, my sweet spot, which I felt was infrastructure. And I wanted to get back into that sort of space. So I had a couple of projects that I was kind of working on and pushing forward as kind of, entrepreneurs tend to have. And then Aethir just started to get kind of a lot of traction. It was a funny little kind of origin story. I'm a big gamer. I've always loved playing games growing up. My co-founder Dan, massive gamer, early at Riot Games, ended up kind of getting promoted through the organization and taking over as COO of Riot Games when they were acquired by Tencent. He moved to Shanghai. We met when we were in China, and we had this kind of idea. If we could take this really, really cool technology that we were both familiar with, it was kind of emerging in the US, like Google Stadia, this like cloud gaming sort of tech, and we could kind of make it scalable, right? The issue with that tech at the time, and still today, to be fair, is that it's too expensive to scale on centralized infrastructure into the regions where people need it, right? Cloud gaming is great for someone like you and me that lives in a first world country, right? We can afford to pay $25 a month for the service, right? But someone who actually can't afford high-end gaming hardware, they're probably not able to afford like $25 a month either, right? So how do you kind of bridge that gap? And we were like, if we could scale this on the back of a decentralized kind of hardware network, that might be the answer to solve that kind of unit economic issue. And we started to kind of combine what we were seeing in the cloud sector in China, right? So like cloud is a little bit more of, China is a little bit more of like a mobile cloud optimized environment. And then, you saw kind of the traditional hyperscalers and how they moved in kind of Western markets. And we thought kind of in between that, coupled with kind of like the early vision of DeepIn with kind of Helium and Filecoin and Bitcoin, like this idea of distributing something on other people's hardware, we felt like there was something there. And we started kind of investigating and then, ended up getting a little bit lucky, I think, as most journeys start.
No, that's fantastic. And the DeepIn space is quite interesting. All the decentralized physical infrastructure that's being put together, or people are starting to explore, I think is really important for this space because there really isn't a whole lot of infrastructure to prop up all the amazing projects and companies that are propagating. So I think the whole DeepIn space is incredibly fascinating, and I want to know what you guys are kind of doing in that arena as well with Aethir. Like, what's your kind of mission in essence in terms of what you guys want to accomplish?
Yeah, so I mean, it's such a crazy space, right? We spoke about gaming, and we have a massive desire on the gaming side to pretty much unlock any type of content for any user, right? So right now, you've got incredible games that you might have enjoyed playing and growing up with, right? Many of those games are not available to the majority of gamers out there, right? Because their hardware is just not capable of playing a AAA game, right? So on the gaming side, our mission was always to just unlock accessibility for any gamer to any type of content, right? Scale the infrastructure that allows a gaming choice to be one purely based on enjoyment, not based on, okay, what phone do I have, or do I have a PS5? So that's kind of the mission on the gaming side. And on the AI side, the mission was very much to make access to this critical resource, GPUs, as available as possible. Make it founder friendly, make it cost effective, make it contractually non-predatory, right? And just incentivize people to build competitive and exciting AI products outside of just the top 5 biggest tech companies in the world. And I think that's like a pretty important imperative, right? As we look at the power that accrues to AI companies over the next kind of coming months and years. But I mean, maybe I should also talk a little bit about what Aethir does, so people get like how we're doing it. So effectively, Aethir is a GPU cloud, right? We're a decentralized GPU cloud. We're like a Google Cloud, we're like an AWS, we're like a Microsoft Azure, except the only difference is we focus exclusively on GPUs, right? So for those of you out there that maybe know a little bit more about kind of the GPU cloud space, we're kind of like a CoreWeave, right, or a Vast, right? But effectively, that just means we focus exclusively on GPUs. The big difference being we don't own any of those GPUs, right? So we don't scale on infrastructure we buy. We scale on infrastructure that's contributed to our network, like a Filecoin, like a Bitcoin, right? People, if they have hardware that's suitable for our network, they can contribute it. Now, unlike many DeepIns, Aethir is purely enterprise grade, right? So we don't aggregate a MacBook, we don't aggregate a gaming PC, we only aggregate enterprise-grade hardware, right? So the stuff that is purpose-built for big enterprise AI workloads, that's the sort of stuff that we aggregate. And effectively, what we do is we go out into the market, right? And what we realized really early on was that the enterprise compute marketplace is really, really inefficiently managed, right? Because forecasting compute workloads, anticipating what you need in the future and when you're going to need it, it's a really, really hard thing to do. Like, no one has the ability to predict the future, and particularly with like AI stuff, we're not really that good at it yet. So there's this massive underutilization of resources out there, right? And that is a problem, right? But it's exacerbated by the fact that this is the most expensive compute that's ever existed, right? So having that stuff sit idle is just so it's burning a hole in companies' pockets, right? So what we essentially do is we go out there and we give these underutilized resources an opportunity to connect to our cloud, and we then redistribute that resource, that kind of unlocked supply, back into the market, making it available. And the unit economics on stuff like that is very different, right? Like if you're kind of selling infrastructure directly to someone from infrastructure that you intended to sell, right? Your pricing structure is very different to, oh, I've got this excess supply. It's costing me money to have it sit there. What will I just accept to not pay that bill anymore, right? So we generally have significantly lower prices, anywhere from 40 to 80% cheaper than what you'll see with hyperscalers, if not like a lot more. And I think this is kind of really good for companies as well. Contractually, we're able to be a little bit more flexible, right? A hyperscaler might push you into a 12-month contract, 18-month contract, 24-month contract, which is, like I said, is tough. This is where the inefficiency comes into play, right? Because you're forecasting and you don't really know. But also it's like fucking expensive, right? You're stuck paying a big bill for a long period of time. With us, you can get a 3-month contract, right? Can be more flexible on how we scale up, how we scale down. And yeah, effectively, that's kind of how we work. A lot of people think of us through the lens of like Airbnb, right? We aggregate infrastructure and things that are not our own. The one, I guess, caveat to that analogy that I like to use is I like to think of us more as like a booking.com, right? In that Airbnb aggregates people's rooms in their home, right? Booking.com aggregates rooms in hotels, right? We aggregate GPUs in data centers. So we're a little bit more like a Booking.com in the sense that you have to meet that criteria of being a hotel and a hotel room. For us, you have to meet that criteria of being in a data center and an enterprise type GPU.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about like incentivizing people to participate in Aethir to provide that compute, and if there was like a threshold for that. Like, it's one thing for someone to say, oh, I have GPU in my computer I don't use and contribute it, but it not being reliable because maybe it goes down or they have power outages or it's an old one and it's not solid infrastructure, versus someone that maybe has a data center or maybe at a company or like where it's a little bit more structured so that you maintain a network with good compute and uptime at the same time. Like, I'm just kind of curious, like, how do you incentivize that or go about acquiring that to build out this deep end system?
100%. And that's kind of the critical piece for what we do, right? Because when you go to a big enterprise company, they have their SLAs, right? They have their performance requirements, their uptime requirements, right? Their quality of service requirements. These are all minimum barriers to entry to kind of deal with them as a potential customer, right? And despite maybe the cost advantages you could generate by aggregating a bunch of like gaming PCs, you'd never be able to hit their uptime requirements, right? You'd never be able to convince them that this GPU that's in someone's kind of gaming den, right, is going to have the uptime requirements that they need for their business. So for us, we made a choice very early on, right? We're going to be enterprise focused. What does that mean from a hardware aggregation perspective? What kind of limits do we need to set for people to contribute to our network so that they can take advantage of kind of the benefits of being a part of our ecosystem, but also so that we can target customers that we want, the ones that have the money. For us, that meant having a pretty strict kind of barrier to entry, right? So effectively, we have a limited number of GPUs, right, that we'll accept. To be fair, AI companies only want 3 or 4 types of GPUs. The ones that provide the right service for kind of cloud gaming customers, also limited in number. Like, we don't need 1,000 different types of GPUs. You only need roughly 10. So we've done that. Where those GPUs sit is also another consideration. But effectively, what we offer a GPU supplier, right, someone who's looking to contribute those GPUs to our network, we offer them obviously great incentives, right? So on top of revenue that they receive from having that GPU booked, there's some treasury incentives on top, right? So they're, in in a way that is very familiar to deep in ecosystems, right? You receive like some flow through of revenue, and you see some flow through of token incentives from the treasury. That's like a little bit of added bootstrap incentive for kind of joining the network and trusting the network. And then, to be honest, more meaningfully than anything else, what we provide them is utilization, right? Our network has a very high utilization rate, right? Much higher than what you'd see in a hyperscaler or really anywhere else, right? Our utilization sits anywhere from like 70 to 80%. And we kind of try our very best to keep it that high, right? Because that means that any GPU that's looking to kind of come in and contribute to our network, they can really comfortably understand what their rewards are going to look like and forecast their finances accordingly based on the fact that if they contribute, they're going to get utilization within our network. And here's how the reward structure works as a result.
We talked about the gaming vertical. We talked about the AI vertical. Is there anything else that kind of stands out in your guys' ecosystem as a vertical that maybe people wouldn't think of, that maybe has a lot of demand for compute, going forward, that you think might be one of those very large verticals that surprises people?
I don't necessarily think so. I think gaming and AI in general, and particularly just AI, is just going to eat all compute up, right, all over the world. Like there's going to be really no compute left for anything else other than AI. And maybe for those, again, that maybe don't understand, compute or GPUs, that's the engine that powers AI, right? You can't have AI without GPUs running it, right? And that goes both for training, right? So you're training ChatGPT 3 to ChatGPT 4, right? You need the GPU engine to train and power that process. But also, when you're interacting with an application like ChatGPT as well, when you're asking it questions and you're receiving answers, right? That process is also a process that's run on GPUs. So every interaction you have with AI, whether it's kind of in its training form or whether it's the actual interaction with the kind of the completed application itself, is all powered by powered by GPUs, and that's going to be kind of the way that we interact with AI for the kind of foreseeable future. So what we're going to see is AI just expand effectively into every vertical, right? Everything that you kind of interact with in the digital space will start to have some form of AI connectivity, right? There will be an AI piece to that experience, which means that experience will then run on GPUs, right? So I think it's less about maybe verticals outside of AI and more just like, where's AI going to go next?
Absolutely. And there's many different touch points too with like IoT and automation, and I think robotics is just right around the corner. We're going to see them everywhere. So AI kind of stems into all those things as well. So I guess it kind of just elevates that vertical itself. An exciting time we're moving into, exciting future. This is something that's really important that you guys are working on with Aethir. Here at Permissionless, are you looking to connect with anybody, make connections, looking for partners, looking for other companies that are consuming compute that need help with that? Or what's your objective?
Yeah, I mean, we want to work with as many emerging AI companies and established AI companies in the space as we can. We have a big desire to support builders in the Web3 ecosystem. Like right now, vast majority of our revenue comes from Web2 companies, right? But we've stood up a $100 million ecosystem fund, right? Because we want to be investing and supporting builders in the crypto space, right? What I think is really exciting about AI at the moment, or at least over the last kind of 3 months, is that I'd say previously, we've been in a very kind of training-focused environment, like big monolithic projects, kind of training their models. And there's only special kind of limited number of teams that have the capability to do something like that. They have to raise a lot of money, they have to be very sophisticated. But now we're getting a little bit more into like the agent and AI application era, right? And that is way more conducive to kind of scrappy young teams kind of standing up and doing something experimental and something interesting, right? And that's kind of just absolutely opened the floodgates for really, really interesting projects and teams to kind of come and show people what they're doing. And we want to connect with them, right? We want to be the one that kind of helps them get their first GPUs, right? We've got a really big ecosystem and a great kind of network of of supporters and community members, and we want to introduce them to these projects and really just kind of get the wheel spinning. We know how hard it is to start a project from zero, right? There's nothing harder you can do in the world than this. And if there's anything that we can do to make that easier for cool teams building cool stuff in kind of the AR, the gaming space, we want to do it.
Excellent. And where can people go to learn more about Aethir if they want to start contributing? Maybe there's a company that's watching this that also needs to tap into what you guys have for resources. Where's the best place to get in touch and get in contact and get a little bit more information?
Yeah, head to aethir.com, so AETHIR.com. There's an ecosystem link. You can click it. You can apply for grants. You can connect with our ecosystem team. At any of these events, we've always got kind of 4 or 5, of our BD and ecosystem guys like walking around. Feel free to say hello. They'd love to chat to you. Follow us on Twitter, Aethir Cloud. We're very, very open. We respond to DMs. We respond to people. We'd love to hear from you guys. I think for us, every conversation's a good one. So we'd love to have as many as possible.
Excellent. Before we wrap up the episode, I want to do a fun, quick little rapid fire session. I'll ask you a few questions. Just give me what's off the top of your head in a short explanation for why. But who's your favorite personality in the Web3 industry right now? All
right. So that would have to be my buddy Peter at House of Crypto. So I'm very biased. He was a groomsman of mine. I've known him. I've known him from like before both of our crypto days. We played rugby together. He has a fantastic YouTube channel, House of Crypto. Super smart guy, super funny, and one of my best mates.
Other than Aethir, is there any other Web3 company in the space that you think is doing some really great stuff, or that you're really optimistic about?
Very optimistic about the DAI protocols that I'm seeing come to kind of maturity at the moment. Jensen, Pluralis, Nous Research, right? These guys are doing some very, very interesting stuff at the pinnacle of kind of the distributed training and verified inference space. On the data side, I really like a project called Perceptron Network. They're doing some really cool stuff. I think that there's still so much room. I love the Auki guys, AUKI, doing the spatial computing stuff. I think there's so many incredible projects out there right now. You've got a lot of really cool AI projects to choose from.
Thoughts on the future of AI, maybe where we're going to go? Are we going to hit the singularity? Are they going to take over? Are we going to sing Kumbaya and hold hands with them? What's it going to be like?
I think that things are moving incredibly quickly. It's difficult to kind of predict where we're going to go. I think all we can really predict at the moment is that things are going to continue to move incredibly quickly, and they're going to continue to probably accelerate in how quickly they move. Best advice I can give people, and this is the advice I give my parents, like my friends, right? Get a ChatGPT subscription, get a Claude subscription, or one of the other, and play with the models that are out, and play with the next model that comes out. Like it's so intuitive how much better the newer models are once you've just spent a week playing with these current models. And you'll find 1,000 things to do, to ask it, to get it to help you with. Like there's no doubt it'll be useful for you, but understanding the difference in capability between what you'll experience now and then that next model release that'll come in the next kind of month or two, that will give you the perspective you need to understand the rate of change that we're seeing in the space. And that's probably the only thing you can do. I can't imagine falling asleep for like 3 months and waking up and trying to catch up with everything that's happened in between now and then. I think it's just insane. So stay in touch, stay connected to what's out there at the moment, and that's the best thing you can do.
And then last question, what do you think the theme is for this summer? Is it stablecoins? Is it decentralized AI? Or is it some other field that you think is really popping off?
I think the broader theme is probably going to be a little bit more institutional, much to my kind of like disappointment. I'm much more interested in the kind of the DAI space. I think that AI as a narrative will never go away, right? To be honest, it's still going to be the dominant narrative. I think it's like on like the cookie dashboards and things like that. It's like sitting at like it's significantly the big owner of mindshare. But I do think that like stable coins and kind of the broader institutional narrative is going to take like a little bit of like space. But very interested in robotics, very interested in distributed training, verifiable inference is going to be a big thing. We're going to get a lot of like really, really interesting technical sophisticated AI projects starting to surface over the next kind of 3 to 6 months. And I think that that's going to be really interesting for people out there to kind of sink their teeth into and to understand some of the cool stuff that's kind of happening.
Awesome, man. Mark, really appreciate the conversation today. This has been fantastic. Love what you guys are doing with Aethir. Keep it up. Keep building that infrastructure. There's probably a lot of companies that need it. Keep me up to date on everything that's going on as well as your roadmap continues to pan out over the course of 2025. And let's definitely do another interview, maybe in person at some point as well. Would love to follow up and see what you guys are doing.
Yeah, would love to. Thanks again for having me. It's been a pleasure.